Hey guys, welcome to Massive Iron Live. Welcome to Friday. We're about to talk lifting for at least 91.7 minutes. How you guys doing? Welcome to Friday. We are cruising to the end of the year. I hope you guys are finishing the year strong. Massive Iron Live. Massive Iron is all about getting the most out of your training, not using complicated methods, using the classic methods that are proven. We are not anti-science. We are pro-history and pro-science that focuses on history. How you guys doing? I hope you had a productive week. I had a productive week. I got a new dog number 5. It's upstairs barking right now, getting fed. For those of you guys tuning in for the first time, I'm here every Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern. Probably the longest running Q&A podcast on the history of the lifting planet. That's my claim anyway. If you are new here, I am here to help. So please don't hesitate to post up your questions. Diet training, even off topic if you want, as long as it's not political or religious. We're all good. A little bit of fun doesn't hurt anybody on a Friday. If your question does not go through, try rewording it or shortening it. Sometimes YouTube will filter questions if they are too long, and sometimes it'll filter it if you use a naughty word or something YouTube considers naughty or weird or borderline or whatever. Who knows? Who can figure out YouTube anyway? So I'm super excited. Tonight is the Tyson and Paul fight, and there's a lot of chatter going on around it. That's fixed, and all this and all that. Tyson's going to get clobbered because he's old. Paul's going to get clobbered. I just want to see it. I hope it's a good fight, and let me know what you guys think if you're going to be watching it. So before we dive into questions, Black Friday is coming, and I'm letting you guys know that I will have a yearly coaching special. It was $6.99 last year. It was $69 for a long, long time. We moved that up. Just the way things are going. It will be down to $7.99 for Black Friday for a couple weeks only. So I'm going to start that now. If any of you guys want a year of coaching, let me know. That'll be only $799. That is, let's see, that's about a savings of $350, $400. Existing clients still locked in at the old rate. So existing clients can get a full year for $699. Team Massive members, I'm going to give you the $699. So if anybody wants to get in for a year of coaching, please let me know. You can DM me on Instagram at Ben the Barman, or head over there and there's a coaching tab. You can fill out an inquiry. You don't have to commit. If you have any questions, I can send you the link. Coaching is what I do for a living. And I'm not going to spiel on with a commercial for too long. Coaching is what I do for a living. I want to work with people. I want to help you reach your goals. I have a track record of helping people reach their goals using the Massive Iron methods. I was voted the online coach of the year this year by the world's largest coaching app, Trainerize, which is a huge, prestigious honor. I'm not trying to pat myself on the back. I didn't even know I was in the running. All I will say is, awards aside, I work really hard to give everyone the best I can, the most I can, and I would love to work with you. So if you've never had an online coach, this is a good place to start. We're going to get you on track. We're not going to do any circus acts. We're going to refine things, training, diet, nutrition, all that kind of stuff. So just check out the coaching tab. And just a quick reminder, if you're looking for some holiday goodies, some Black Friday goodies, I'm going to have some new t-shirts. I got apparel. I got logbooks. I got books. My Massive Iron books are going to be out here. So please check out my website. I'm a small content creator, and you guys help me do this for a living, and I appreciate that. So I try to keep my prices fairly reasonable on everything. I'm not an apparel company, but I got some really good apparel over there. All right, enough with the commercial. We're not here to listen to commercials. We're here to talk lifting. Rico, how you doing, Rico? Thank you so much for tuning in. How's the new dog? We got the new dog last Saturday, so it's been officially 7 days. The last 2 nights, it's sleeping through the night with us, and it is calmed down. So super, super happy that he's fitting in. It's been a long week sleep-wise because of the new puppy, but he was born with, this is dog number 5. He was born with pneumonia and was struggling to gain weight for 4 to 5 months. When I picked him up, I didn't think he was going to make it. He didn't look in really good shape. But now we got him just on track. He's doing good. He's healthy. His pneumonia's gone. He likes eating eggs. That's his favorite thing, which is good, man. You know, there's some good quality nutrition. So everything is good. Massive Iron Live, Massive Iron not live. It will be offline session. Harris, happy weekend. Team Massive, thanks for tuning in. Do women with average fitness goals need isolated trap work? No, definitely not. Traps aren't something a lot of women are super excited to build in general, and for a good reason. I mean, women generally don't want a big mountain of triangle up here on their neck, and that is certainly reasonable. I know my wife wouldn't want that. No, they don't. Their neck is going to get strong enough for all they need from just doing general resistance training, overhead pressing, some form of an overhead press, even if it's a seated shoulder press. So, women don't need to train like bodybuilders. They do need to do some general strength and conditioning work, and that's really about it. So let's see, what do we got next? Which muscles we can train with mild soreness? You can pretty much train anything with mild soreness, but if you're going to go into a posterior movement, like an RDL or a squat or deadlift, and something is pretty sore, you have to be very, very careful, right? You might need to adjust little degrees of soreness, and I'm not trying to be alarmist here, but small changes in soreness can impact sometimes how you perform. We have to use common sense. So if you have a big deadlift day and your quads are really sore, or even your chest is sore, you have to be careful with that. You have to be super careful, not alarmist. Just use your best judgment and adapt on the fly. Drop weight a little bit, drop a set if you need to. But soreness is generally connective tissue, fascia related rather than muscular. That's a controversial statement to some. But what I have explained many times over the years is that the fascia, the connective tissue in and around a muscle, has 9 times more sensory neurons than the muscle. So what that means is when you feel soreness and pain, generally it's coming from the fascia and not necessarily the muscle. Certainly the muscle is depleted in a state of repair. There is no doubt there. But a lot of the soreness you tend to feel is fascia or connective tissue related. When you sit for a while and you feel stiff, that's the fascia and connective tissue kind of tightening up, or what we might say calcifying, so to speak. Not turning you into bone, but kind of stiffening up a little bit. That's kind of what you're feeling. So as long as you loosen up and feel fine during your warm-up sets, you should be absolutely fine. Big Ernie Peterson, what's going on, Big Ernie? Thanks for tuning in. Can you run your massive BLT on dumbbell bench if you have microplates? Yeah, you can do anything you want as long as it makes sense. Look at this, my smartwatch burning a tattoo on my arm, my Fitbit. I had to switch it over to the other side. Yeah, you can absolutely do that. Just use common sense, have fun with it, adjust if needed. That's really the key thing. Ice cold Tristan, how's it going? Good morning. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for always tuning in to Massive Iron Live. I noticed this, guys, and I appreciate it. I really do. What do we got? Big Justin Jones. Good morning. Goog. It's okay, man. I use voice to chat a lot online, and it's always changing things. So I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing with you. I feel your pain. Good morning, big, hairy, ugly dude, and Team Massive. When would you suggest changing progression methods? There's no urgent need to change a progression method. Let's say you're doing straight sets on dumbbell curls, 3x10, and the last set you push for max reps. When, just as one example, when do you need to change? You never need to change. Okay. If things slow down, if you get to like 45-pound curls and they seem like you've plateaued, you really haven't plateaued. You're just slowing, because you can't expect to be dumbbell curling 100s. Nobody's doing that in the gym. So we reach a stage on lifts where things naturally slow, right? And we can kind of get reactionary or panic. It's natural to do and think, oh, I have to change the progression method. You don't need to. You can change a progression method if you want something new or you want a new challenge. That's kind of when you should do it. And changing things up can be fun. I like to change things up. You just don't want to change things too frequently. If you're serious about results, you want to give a progression method or a system, a phase to work itself out, to get to know it, to see what it's going to do. A phase of training in the massive iron world is usually 3 to 5 months. So we have a special guest in the studio today. This is Mr. No Name Cookie Stick Bug. You're the best little boy. You're the best boy I ever knowed. How are you doing?
He needs a name.
Yeah. So anybody that you can submit your name for this little guy, and if we use your name, you'll win nothing. Okay. This is my wife, Fiona. She's not really from Australia. She has a fake accent.
Fake?
She won't talk now because she's, but this is my new dog, our new dog. And we got him last Saturday, and we were pretty scared when we got him, weren't we?
Well, he was born with pneumonia, and they asked us to take him and see if we could fatten him up and get him fit and healthy.
I see a little fatness coming in right here.
He looks better now.
Yeah, he's doing really good. He's progressed really rapidly during the week. He's more energetic. He's sitting with the other dogs really well. What's that?
That's Snoop.
What is that?
Snoop's barking at the people building houses.
Yeah, so he's a good dog. If you've never had a dachshund, I can tell you, small dogs, they don't always seem appealing to a lot of people. These are wonderful dogs. They're so smart. They're so full of personality.
They do the most weirdest things.
They're good watchdogs. They're just good everything.
You do funny things.
They're absolutely the best dogs.
They're smart.
Yeah, they are super smart. So, all right, Mr. Stickbug, say goodbye.
Mr. Stickbug.
Mr. Stickbug.
He's naughty. He's got a fat tummy now.
Yes, he does.
He's got a fat tummy.
All right, let's see what we got here.
He's crying.
I have a virtual appointment this morning with an athlete therapist for my neck. He will be following me twice a week during my workouts to make sure I'm practicing good cervical hygiene. I don't even know what that means, man. That sounds like some PG-13 stuff. I don't even know what that is, but I hope it works out well for you. You got to be careful, though. The one thing I'll say is when there are people that know exercise form and people that think they know exercise form. So if he gives you any tips on like exercise form, just double check with the big, hairy, ugly dude. You know what I'm saying? Not looking forward to my workout for the first time. I can understand. I wouldn't want anybody combing through it either. Barbell Beauty, how's it going? Welcome to the party. Thank you for tuning in. Richard Arias Quintero, how's it going, my friend? Greetings. For vertical press, it is necessary to lock out the elbows. It's just that when I do it, no. If you feel discomfort, don't do it. I mean, I would like you to push it as high as you can. We don't want to just kind of do rapid pulsing half reps. But no, you don't have to lock it out. Just focus on control during the descent, getting it to a good position. See here, even when the bar is right at the chin level, you can see the elbow is well below the shoulder. So you're getting a lot of side delt stimulation from that position. At lockout, the last little bit is just going to be, obviously it's going to be some of your delts, but it's also going to be some of your triceps. No, when you have a lift where you're feeling discomfort at a certain point and you want to do the lift, just do it to the best of your ability and don't feel compelled to stick to arbitrary things that might injure you. On the bench press, for example, I reached a point about 20 years in where I found that if I stopped about 2 inches off the chest, it treated my shoulders better. Now, if I post a bench press like that on the internet, you get a lot of really strange comments. I'm trying to put it politely. People don't understand what they're seeing, and they have a tendency sometimes to get reactionary or say, hey, you're cheating, or hey, that's not a complete rep, or whatever. Like somehow we're keeping score, right? Somebody please score my bench press reps and let me know. Oh, the Russian judge gave me a 9.8, but the American judge said I didn't test my chest on bench press. I only got an 8.2. We're not being scored on things. As long as you have good control, you're taking care of the body, and you're getting good stimulation, which is the point of what we're doing, right? Then continue forward with it. Big Jimmy C. With the cut finally taking shape, I'm starting to see some definition in some of the muscles. Great. That's wonderful news. It builds a little momentum. You kind of get to the tipping point sometimes during a cut where you can start to see stuff coming out. A little bit of vein action, a little bit of better definition, a little ripple, a little dipple, a little twist and twirl. You know what I'm saying? When you get to that point, it's a good place to be. It is highly motivating. When I cut 100 pounds, I went from 346 to 240 down to 238. And then I kind of bulked up a little bit for my powerlifting meet, my redemption powerlifting meet. I actually got back up to 266 for that meet, and then I cut back down. When I got up to 266, I was looking big and strong and, pretty much like a professional wrestler. And from there, the 20 pounds down to get to about 242 or 246, I could start to see veins coming in and striations and things that I didn't even know, and I'm looking in the mirror like, who is that guy? It can be very, very satisfying. Because I have some excess fat, I'm in a unique place to where I can cut and still get stronger. Excellent. When you are cutting, people ask me a lot, when you're cutting, can you get stronger? And on the internet, in the fitness influencer world, many times they'll give a generic answer. Yes, no, yes, no. It's not like that. Everything is lift dependent. So if you have a long way to cut, say 30 or more pounds, you might be weaker in one area. You might have more potential for strength in one area. Let's say you have a naturally weak deadlift, but your squat is pretty strong and you're cutting. You have some potential in those weaker lifts to gain strength while you're cutting. If your biceps are super weak and you get into a cut, there's a good chance you're going to gain some decent strength during your cut on your biceps. So everything is lift dependent. And I need to stress this because in this world of science-based, sometimes we lose focus. We lose focus on common sense. We give one answer to all questions, which is ridiculously ignorant. It's the opposite of science-based, right? One of the things about the science-based community, and this is not a condemnation of science-based training, this is a condemnation of those in the science-based community that are pretenders, okay? And that sounds harsh, but it is true. We need to comb through these things because these guys are coming out with science-based information that places a lot of pressure and a lot of burden on the average lifter to dance and to stay agile and to move to whatever they're saying. But many times they're creating a narrow lane when a narrow lane is not the reality of training, right? So we have to be really careful with that. They can state proclamations. Hi, Andreas. They can state proclamations like, when you cut, you can only gain strength here. You can't expect to gain strength here. The body is super, super complex. Every lift is different. Your limb lengths and leverages are unique. We just don't know what's going to happen during a cut. It is almost a given that you're going to lose strength in some areas, especially presses. Presses really struggle during a cut, but this is where we don't get into creating rules. Someone could have a relatively weak bench press, do a 50-pound cut, and move their bench press from 135 to 165 because their bench press started on the low end. So basically, the lower you are in a relative sense in strength on a lift, the more potential you have for that strength to go up on a cut. Does that make sense for those of you that are interested in strength training? Richard, what exercise do you recommend for tricepticons, overhead extension that is friendly to the elbows? Okay, so here's the thing. The elbows can be very problematic when it comes to all the little bits and pieces in there, right? The connective tissue. Because you have a strong muscle group right here. And the elbows can pick up inflammation or aggravation fairly easily as all that little stuff tries to adapt to the big weight you're moving around. I'm generalizing and sounding like an idiot, but that's what's happening. The elbows, almost more than on any area in the body, struggle at times for many, many lifters. I've been lifting for 39 years, and randomly 2 months ago on the cable tricep extension, my elbow picked up aggravation on a moderate weight. Why? I don't know. So the first and foremost, when you have some form of elbow aggravation, we need to try some exercises up. We need to be open to different exercises. Seated tricep press down, close grip bench, JM press, Tate press, which is a dumbbell press where you're basically rolling in like this with your dumbbells, dumbbell skull crushers, regular skull crushers, cable tricep extensions, overhead tricep extensions, French press, single arm cable tricep push downs, bench dips, just a myriad of exercises. We need to try some exercises to see. Now, if you pick up aggravation that is lingering, you probably need to give it 2, 3, maybe even 4 weeks to kind of rescind. And then we kind of start to find exercises that are friendly. The key take home here is when you pick up triceps aggravation or stress, elbow aggravation or stress, is that there's no magical answer. This exercise is good on the elbows. This isn't. It's really up to the individual. When you are doing these exercises, though, I can't stress enough, don't try to lock your elbows into a fixed position, right? And then work within a plane. Even like on a dumbbell skull crusher, we don't lock and become robotic, right? You want to let the elbows naturally rotate a little bit. They're rotating out. That's okay. We don't have to create fixed planes, 90-degree angles, parallel tracking, and all this kind of stuff. These are kind of arbitrary things we tend to create and fitness influencers tend to create them and call them good, proper form. It's not proper form. It's an arbitrary plane based on some angle or some parallel tracking or some random seed in their mind that they consider good form. Good form really comes down to control, like you push up, control, taking care of the body, not being reckless, not just throwing around weight. And that's a generalization, but control is a good baseline. Richard, any suggestions to keep the shoulders? We just talked about the elbows. The shoulders, get your shoulders strong. This is kind of counterintuitive to a lot of the information in what I would call the weaker side of lifting, but we want to get our shoulders strong. I have beat the living crap out of my shoulders over the last 39 years, not recklessly so, but with a good selection of dumbbell and barbell overheads. And my shoulders are super strong and healthy. The problem is when we do a lot of pressing and we do a lot of horizontal pressing and we don't do a lot of vertical pressing, we kind of develop an imbalance. So you want to keep things balanced. That one of the keys to keys to shoulder health is quality overhead pressing. Yvonne, good morning. Big Joe B, client of mine. Good morning, Team Massive. Should be hitting push C when the great video stream starts. Good, man. Hope it goes well. Let me know how it goes. Let me get a drink here. Today, we are sponsored by Purple Monster. Not really, but, it sounds good, right? All right. Although I asked in private, as a reminder, can you give me an update on strength standards beginning to advance? I did send a video. I'm not sure if you saw that, but I have a video on this channel called Strength Standards, and you can go to the main page of YouTube. The main page of my YouTube channel and search Strength Standards, and you're going to right at the top. You're going to see a Strength Standards video that shows you beginner, intermediate, and advanced strength standards. I can't really go over that video here because it would take too long, but it is a great reference and resource, so please check that out. If you want to see it and you have trouble finding it, let me know. By the way, we do have a Discord channel, Team Massive on Discord. If you would like to gain access to it, please, all you got to do is DM me. I'll send you the link. That's as simple as that on Instagram, or you can email me, benthebarman@gmail.com. Where are we? I just lost track of where we were. Big Eric. I'm training for several years in the gym, but relatively weak. Okay, squat is 1.5 body weight. Friend of mine says it's because my friend. No, that's very arbitrary. I don't want to laugh at your friend, but I'm laughing at the arbitrary nature of the analysis. His thinking is that you need to frequently squat to bring up your squat strength. That is a very generic and arbitrary response. He just created a narrow lane, and this is what we tend to do in fitness. We tend to generalize and create narrow lanes. No disrespect meant to your friend, but that's not inherently true. If you want me to look at it, I'd be glad to look at it. And your frequency and your approach. A lot of this is form, okay? Form and consistency. Squat is one of the most misunderstood exercises, ill-performed exercises. This is one of the reasons why novice programs that overly rely on squats aren't really good for muscle building, because out here, everyone's just like, do your squats. They're magical. You're going to get big. And everybody just learns squat form right out of the gate. I can tell you, as somebody that coaches the squat for a living, not only coaches for a living, but I would consider myself somebody that is very obsessed with squat and deadlift form. Ask anybody that I coach. I'm always looking at nuances and minor things that we can, even minor changes in stance positioning and knee angles, just the basics, what I would consider the basics. But in this day and age in influencer world, not a lot of people are form coaches. Okay. And that's no disrespect meant. There are a lot of people that will give you a program and tell you to squat, and they just assume in Magic Fairy World you're going to get something out of the squat. But in the reality, 70-75% of people that come to me need a lot of work on their squat to get something out of it. So I would suspect that's the case. The first thing we need to look at is your form. The second thing we need to look at is the bigger picture. Have you been training consistently? Do you have a focused nutrition plan? Does it align with your goals? Is your weight going up and down? Is it just not doing anything? Are you training your quads in a well-rounded way and your hamstrings in a well-rounded way? Are you doing more than squats? So I would love to help. need a little bit more information, so just let me know. And guys, sometimes one of the things I will say on here is, and I want to say this to my clients and members of Team Massive because it's important. And it's not super serious. I just made it sound super serious, but it's important. In my world, I have clients who I know by their real name. And then I have members of Team Massive who I know by whatever moniker they go on Team Massive, X-Pac 23 or whatever it is, right? And then on here, everybody has a different nickname or moniker. And then on Instagram, they have a different one. And so sometimes, like, one person will have 4 different names in 4 different places. I don't piece it together. I don't. Like, sometimes, a lot of times, one of my clients will go, "Hey, I asked this question online," and I'm like, "What? You did? My client asked a question on live?" And I'll be like, "What was his nickname on YouTube?" So I don't ever want to offend anybody when I cross those wires. And the reason why I mention this is because I have several clients named Eric. I have people on Team Massive named Eric, and I don't ever want to sound ignorant if this is one of the Erics I know or I'm working with. Chicken egg question: Is progression in weight the result of adaptation or vice versa? Should one progress the rate to drive adaptation? They are like an infinite symbol. Okay. The problem with this conundrum, if you will, the problem with this logical proposition is that we are trying to create something which drives progression. Does adaptation drive progression, driving adaptation? Is progression in weight the result of adaptation, or is progression of weight driving adaptation? They are not two things dancing together. They are the same thing, 2 pieces of the same engine. So if one piece of the engine is not there, progression, then there's not going to be any adaptation. Okay? It's like gasoline and an engine. Without gasoline, the engine can't go. Okay? Without the engine, the gasoline can't do anything. It's a symbiotic relationship, or whatever you want to call it. So the way to look at it logically is that they both are 2 parts of the same engine. They're both, one is the fuel and one is the engine. Your training could be a 4-cylinder engine. It could be a little putt-putt 1-cylinder, what is it, 60cc, whatever the motorcycles are. It could be like, you know what I'm saying? Or it could be a V12 dual turbo. Your training is something like that. And the gasoline is just progressive overload. So how hard you're pushing on the gas pedal, how hard you're pushing on the progressive overload. You could have a V12 twin turbo, and you can just kind of push lightly on the gas, which is a progressive overload. And it's like you can feel the potential, but it's not really taking off. On the other hand, you can have like an old Suzuki Swift 3-cylinder, which is basically a Geo Metro car I used to have, and you can flatten that thing. You can push it out, right? You can put the pedal to the metal, and it's going to go. It's going to take like a week to get up to 60. So progression and adaptation are part of the same process, right? Hard training is what we need to focus on. Going to the gym, maximizing sets, and the fruit of that will be another rep. And from another rep, is the extra rep driving the adaptation, or is the hard training pushing driving the adaptation, right? The extra rep or progression comes from hard training, but if you are not pushing hard, you're not going to get the progression. So they are just two sides of the same coin, if that makes sense. In your lifting life, you surely have trained with some strong and big bodybuilders. Absolutely. I've had the opportunity to train with many amazing people over the years. How do they really train when the camera is off? This is a very good question. I saw a video of Renaissance periodization, Dr. Mike saying that most pros don't train hard. Now, I'm going to caveat this by saying I did not see this video. I always have to be very careful because I am responding to a paraphrase of something someone said. And I'm not saying that's what he didn't, and I'm not discounting what Eric is saying. But I'm responding to the comment that most pros don't train hard, and I don't know specifically that this is what Dr. Mike said, and it might be out of context. So I just want to set the table there. Now, for those of you guys that are new, or for those of you guys that don't know, and I've told this story before, I have been in the lifting industry for a very, very long time. I started with a website called Muscle and Brawn. It became a competitor to bodybuilding.com for the Form of the Year. I no longer own that site, so please don't go over there. I sold it, and now someone sells fake, crappy supplements. I was picked up at that time by Muscle and Strength as a content developer and editor and writer, and then later went to work with Tiger Fitness, and I've also been involved with YouTube. Now, in all of these many, many years, I have had the privilege of working with, talking with, chatting with, working out with many, many people. So many people I can't even begin to explain. Many times, I would just have them in my office as a visit from the supplement company or to do content. On one day, I might be talking to John Meadows on the phone. On one day, I might be bending steel with Bud Jeffries in the parking lot of a YMCA in Louisiana. These things all happen. The next day, I would have a professional female golfer in my office who weight train. The next day, Yankee legend Paul O'Neill. I'm training the deadlift with him and his sons. I'm training with the world's strongest power lifter at the time, Donnie Thompson. I've trained with Ronnie Coleman. I've trained with Jerry Ward. I've trained with Mark Lobliner. I've trained with Alan Roberts. I've trained with all of these people, pro bodybuilders. I haven't trained with Jay Cutler. I've met Jay Cutler. I've trained with Ronnie Coleman. I've trained with many professional fitness competitors, figure competitors, men's physique competitors, and professional bodybuilders. A huge, huge amount. Huge. I couldn't even begin to even say. Everyone from the Hodge twins, who I've made videos with, to just everybody. Now, I wanted to set the table there because there are few people, I would say, that have had the opportunity to train with a huge variety of people like I have. Top-level power lifters, Lillibridges. I haven't trained with Pete Rubish, but I've been at meets with Pete. I have a long history with Paul Carter. I actually hired him as a writer when I was back in Muscle and Strength. I've been at meets where he's coaching powerlifters. I've been at the Arnold where we're hanging out. We've done interviews. Sean Clarito, who competed in the Mr. Olympia. We go back many, many, many years to when he was natural. I did profiles with him back in the late 2000s. So I don't think there's many people who have the perspective I do. Body transformation stories, powerlifters, bodybuilders, Gen Pop, fitness competitors, YouTube sellers. I will say that when you meet one of these people, almost 98% of the time, the way they train compared to the way the average gym trainee trains is completely next level. You know it walking into it. Like if I'm going to go train with somebody like the Hodge twins or you name it, I know it's game on. These guys are going to be giving it. Now, I remember the Hodge twins. You know, they're like, we're not very strong. They would go and just crush 225, throw it around like it was nothing on bench. Their bench was still well over 315, right? I knew when I would train with these guys that it was going to be hard. There's only maybe a couple of people that I was surprised with that trained like wet noodles. And one of them, I think, was because he had been a bodybuilder and kind of beaten his body up a little bit and couldn't train as hard now. And that was Jerry Ward. Jerry Ward really trained fluffy pumpy. But you have to understand this. That's not a criticism. When you build a lot of mass, it doesn't take much to sustain it. So this is the problem when you get an advanced lifter who built their muscle using just the massive iron type style of training. You know, compounds, reasonable volume, progressive overload, all the basic core tenets. And then they get to the advanced stage, and it doesn't take much at all to sustain that muscle tissue. Okay. So you can watch like Jerry Ward in the gym, and he's doing fluffy, pumpy pecs and stuff. And you're like, wow, man, that's kind of light and weak. But you know that it doesn't take much to maintain muscle mass. So outside of rare things like that, everybody I met, you knew they were going to be strong and train hard. I went once when I was at Muscle and Strength on this is way back when, before YouTube was crazy in the fitness realm. I went back and I did video shooting. I kind of toured the country. I videoed Victor Costa, Vic's Natural. You can find him on YouTube. He's a very mind-muscle-y coach. Nothing but respect for Vic. We were in the Bronx, I believe, filming at his gym. Spent a day with Vic. I think he has over 400, 500,000 subscribers on YouTube. I went down to North Carolina. I trained with Mr. North Carolina, the natural bodybuilding champion. Went up to Minnesota, trained with Mr. Minnesota, the bodybuilding champion. I trained with Stu Yellen, who was then associated with T Nation, New York. I've been in his apartment, met his dog. You know, that's just kind of the life I had. So I was touring around at this time doing video work, you know, with all these guys. And I remember the bodybuilding champions, Mr. North Carolina. I get there and he's like, oh, you're a power lifter. And like, people started to associate me as a power lifter, even though bodybuilding and muscle building is my obsession, always my primary obsession. And I get there and he's like, you're a power lifter. And he says to me, in a moment of slight insecurity, I'm not strong. Okay. I know because I've been around the block that this is bullshit. Because bodybuilders will tell you, I'm not strong. And then when you go see them in the gym, you're like, mind blown. He proceeded while we were filming to grab 150 pound dumbbells and knock out 10 reps on the dumbbell bench. Stronger than me by 5 reps. Let that sink in. And he was 30 pounds lighter. And he's 100% natural. I'm not strong. That's what I know to be true. When I go in and meet these people, they're going to blow your mind. They're going to be strong. They're going to train hard, and they're next level. I don't know who RP's hanging out with. I don't even know. But that's not my experience at all. All right. Went for a 1 rep bench PR, which I don't do often, and my back tightened up bad. Why did this happen? That's absolutely normal. I will tell you, one of the things that is misunderstood is the impact and the involvement of the back during a bench press set. The biggest risk or concern for me during a heavy bench press set is a lat cramp or a weakening of the lats. I get that often. more than any other cramp. Not super frequently. That's normal. 100% normal. That's why we need to train the lats and the back strongly. Even still, when you have a strong back, and I love to train my back, you guys know that, it's still going to happen. Everything, a compound movement is very complex, and we like to be very derivative. We like to pretend a compound movement only hits the chest and only hits the front delts and only hits the bench, only hits the triceps. And in reality, it's crushing the living crap out of your grip and putting stress on your wrists and putting stress on your traps and putting stress on your lats. I missed the lift at my last powerlifting meet because my big toe cramped. It did. I was pressing down so hard it twitched and rose up off the ground. And even though I got like 392 and a half and I locked it out, I was red lighted because my big toe cramped. How crappy of a day is that, right? That's a bad day. But yeah, that's absolutely normal. Absolutely normal. Nothing to worry about. In fact, you probably should be experiencing it pretty consistently. Big Papa Juice. Let me get a drink here. All right. Wanted to say thanks. Thank you. Anybody that leads with thanks always makes my day. I finished a long cut and started bulking. Increased my 1 rep max. Wonderful, man. That is great. Great progress. Should be to 220. That's wonderful progress. I'm really super glad to hear that. This is what it's all about for me. Results, results, results. I'm using your 10-pound bulk and cut cycles, and it's already paying dividends. Wonderful to hear that. And anybody that doesn't know, let me just pull it up. You can go to the main page. If you want to know how to maximize bulking without getting fat, there's a way to do it. And I have a massive bulking system. It's not the only way to bulk. I'm not going to be so brash as to say it's the only way to bulk, but it is a very intelligent way to bulk. Now, if you're not familiar with the massive bulking system, you can go over to my website, Super Living Today, and search massive bulking. This is a pretty in-depth PDF. It's 14,000 words. It's not a full book, but it contains the bits and pieces of how to bulk the massive iron way. And if you don't want to buy that, you can find it for free, the information for free here. I give out pretty much everything for free. And if you want more information, you can buy it. But you can go to the main page of my YouTube and search massive iron bulking. I'm not going to get into the nuts and bolts of how it works here, but we don't do anything aggressive. We try to stay in a calorie surplus the majority of the year. And I like it. So give it a try if you're not familiar with it. And I'm glad to hear it's working out. Shelly, Klein, am I? Good morning, Team Massive. Any tips on spacing protein throughout the day so as to not be satiated and I'm not hungry for many hours? So from a baseline scientific standpoint, eating every 3 to 4 hours is generally reasonable, right? For muscle building. We're not trying to create rules or artificial structures or whatever, but it's certainly reasonable. So one of the key things is to have smaller meals with protein that also probably involves something that is slower to digest, like food volume, veggie volume, anywhere, even things like avocados, tossing in a bunch of onions, tomatoes, things that take a while to digest. And don't rule out complex carbs. Of course, we need those: potatoes, rice, oatmeal. You want things your body has to work to digest. That usually helps you stay satiated longer. Like if you got up and you had protein oatmeal with fruit, It would take a while for your body to digest that. And then by the time you're hungry again, it's 3-4 hours later. And then you could have, chicken with some turkey bacon and some tomato and maybe a baked potato, or a yam or something like that. So we want to, we don't have to create like an elaborate plan of attack, but we do have to create some structure that has some food volume built into it. And usually that's, if you're sticking in the plant-based and animal-based world, that's usually the best bet. We need to find foods that take a little bit to digest and that we're satisfied with. And one of the ways I keep my meal satisfying is I fill in the gaps with food volume. So tonight I might have venison and potatoes. Good enough for a lot of good nutrients. Ground venison, instant potatoes, 1,000 calories. That's usually what I do for dinner. I could stop there, but what I typically do is I add in pickled onions, jalapenos, maybe some diced tomatoes, maybe some mushrooms, a little bit of extra nutrient variety, and a little bit of extra food volume, because that little bit at the end, even though it's not a lot of calories, is really going to kind of push that meal over the edge. Does that make sense? So let's say you want to have a meal with Greek yogurt. You're going to have 2 Greek yogurts and you want to get in your 24 grams of protein, but it's not really hitting you, right? As far as I feel hungry an hour later, take some frozen peaches, some frozen berries up in there. You can add like 150, 200 calories of frozen berries and take that 160 calorie protein snack up to 350 calories. And all of a sudden you have a ton of fruit volume, right? There are some healthier breakfast cereals out there. Breakfast cereal is ever perfect? No, but some of them are pretty decent. What I do a lot is I will take a cup. I just measure out a cup of the cereal, put it in a bowl, a cup of whole milk, because I want the nutrients and the fat, 1 Dannon Fit and Light yogurt, and then fruit. And before you know it, you got a bowl of food that tastes great, full of flavor. I have 1 cup of cereal, which is like 160 calories, 140, whatever, and the milk. It's about 300 calories. And then I add in the Greek yogurt, it's about 380. And then I add in a bunch of fruit, maybe 75 calories. It's about 450 calories. And the point here, I'm not trying to create meals for you, Shelly, but I'm saying it's a lot of food. And I have to work at it. And, so we just have to kind of build out that last 20 to 25%. As far as spacing protein, I like doing little hit and run meals. For me, they might be 300 to 400 calories, 350 to 400 calories. I'll do one at 11, I'll do one at 2, and then I'll save the majority of my calories for later. Sometimes I'll eat 800 calories at 11, and then 600 at 3, and then 1,000 at night. So I do hit and run meals. And when I say that, they're not elaborate meal prep, but they still allow me enough. They allow me enough calories at the end of the day to eat pretty big and go to bed full. But the hit and run meals, I've mastered the art of adding in the food volume. Does that make sense? Probably didn't answer your question, but Big Mark Estrabio from Amplified Training, please go follow his YouTube. I have nothing but good things to say about Mark. He's a damn good guy. He's sincere. He puts out very unique and intelligent content. One of the best content producers out there in fitness, and no one follows him because he's just new. But if you want a decent human being with good strength content, Please follow Mark. Go over to his channel. Please search his name. All right. We're at about 55 minutes in. I'm going to get a drink and we're going to keep rolling. Before we roll on, just a reminder that there is a team Discord channel. You can hit me up on Instagram or email. I'll send you the link. Coaching, I'm going to have a Black Friday special for $7.99. There's a coaching tab there. You can inquire. I can send you the link. Existing clients, you can still get it for $6.99. That's going to be a Black Friday special. I'm also going to be doing a Black Friday special with Mark Estrabio, who I just mentioned. And we're going to give you 2 workouts for one cost. So any of you guys that are interested, you can basically get 6 to 10 months of programming and get a workout from me, a workout from Mark. They'll be very, very different in nature, which will be fun. I'm going to be doing that on Black Friday. I hope to have my books done by Black Friday. And I have some special t-shirts and other deals as well. But coaching is what I do for a living. Between now and mid-January is now the time to get in on coaching, because after that point, I stay pretty full as it is. So I would say I stay at about 100% capacity. And then between now and January 10th, I take on probably about 10 more clients than normal and just kind of let things degrade, so to speak. The average client that works with me stays on longer than a year. I've had clients on for 7 and 8 years. So I don't have a lot of turnover, but if you're interested in coaching, please, now is the time to get in. I would love to work with you. And if you want to cut a few corners, get rid of Hulu, get rid of Netflix after the Tyson fight, get rid of your protein powder, save that $89. My coaching is $89.40 a month after the first month for life. And I'll try to give you a really good value. I'm able to do that because I coach for a living. Coaching is what I do from sun up to sundown. On Monday and Tuesday, I work 30 hours. 30 hours of coaching and content creation. Most of it is coaching. So when I told the gym buddy I'll be cutting after the first of the year, he asked if I'd be doing high reps. Is it myth or legend? Myth. You don't do the old school fairy tale belief in fitness is that when you want to lose weight, you do higher reps to to burn the fat around the muscles. Nothing could be further from the truth. It's actually one of the worst concepts. It's like the earth is flat. Just equate it to that because it's absolute nonsense. You don't train any differently. The only thing you don't do is over push for progress. If you're cutting or trying to lose weight and the next rep comes to you, then take it. But you want to save the big push for when you're bulking. Adonis, how's it going, Adonis? Currently squatting 2 times a week high bar, 3s on one day. The 3s protocol is something I created for those that are curious. You can search progression here on the main page to find it. And standard 3x8 straight sets on the other day after deadlifts. Question is, what is a smart way to start experimenting with low bar? So if you want to get in low bar, you want to have a pretty smooth and steady, uncomplicated progression approach. Just start like 3x6. You want to pull the reps down a little bit because in a squat or a deadlift, it's the weaker, lesser potent muscle groups that are going to take the hardest beating the later in a set you get. So if you're going to switch from low bar to high bar, or high bar to low bar, or deadlifts to deficit deadlifts, or deadlifts to halting deadlifts, or whatever you want to do, you want to dial the reps down just a little bit. You're going to dial the weight down, okay, quite a bit, because this is going to hit you harder and you need to gain some momentum. So if I was squatting, say 315, I would probably start low bar at like 185, just my first workout to get the feel for it, because you really don't want to get injured. You need to get your legs underneath you, so to speak. So maybe somewhere around 60 to 70%. Lower the reps. You're doing like eights and threes protocol. Maybe lower the reps to 2 or 3 sets of 5 just that first week. Big Ryan Underwood. Morning. I'm at the shoulder specialist as we speak. Pretty sure that's not good. Hey, man, I hope things turn out for you. That's one of the scary things about training. Just keep your focus, man. Whatever happens, do whatever else you can as hard as you can. Just keep fighting. JR, look out now. How's it going, Big JR? Thanks for tuning in. Can't wait to hit 315 on the back squat. That's a big, big step forward. Not a lot of people get there. And if you watch the internet, you think everybody gets there with perfect form. Well, I will tell you, maybe 20% of really serious lifters will ever get there. So that's a big accomplishment. I find it hard to eat when I'm not hungry. Can you shout at me and put me right? Yes, Jason, I do not give a shit how you feel. And I say that with love. There's one way to get it done. And we do not care about our feelings. We care about the process. I don't feel like flossing when it's 10:30 at night. I floss because I want to keep my last tooth, right? I floss. I do the right thing because I do not care about how I feel. I care about sticking to the process. So, if you're not hungry, you have to work with it the best you can. Drink a glass of milk with an ounce of heavy cream. Drink a protein shake with an ounce of heavy cream. Get something to get your protein and calories in. If you allow yourself to fold because you don't feel like sticking to the process, then you are going to derail the process. The process does not bend or break on days we don't feel like doing the right thing. The right thing in muscle building is a structure and a path and a formula and a way forward. And when we deviate from that, we will only slow our results. The biggest hindrance to results, and what I see as a professional coach, is people that are not consistent with nutrition. A lot of people will train hard, but they will not be consistent with nutrition. It is an amplifier. Those science-based people or voices out there recently, that's saying you don't need to bulk, it provides no value, are idiots. That sounds like a personal attack, but they are idiots. You can let them know I said it. Food is an amplifier, and consistent food is the best amplifier. Anybody that's trained for a long enough period of time knows how their body feels. Slight surplus compared to a slight deficit. Jason, you need to create a structure. Jason, you need to stick to the structure. And Jason, you need to be stronger than the voices in your head. You don't feel like eating when you're not hungry. Many of us are not going to feel like training. You know, if you go on the glowing, wonderful world of influencer fitness, everybody always feels like training all the time, right? Oh, I love training and everything's perfect in my life. And here's my car and here's my, hot partner and here's my cool apartment and all this stuff. And it's all bullshit because we know better. These people, everyone has many days where you're tired and you don't feel like doing the right thing. That's where growth occurs. In those days, in those moments, that is where it is important to do the right thing. You are pushing back against your impulses and whims. That is where true growth occurs in the long run. On the days when you do not want to do the right thing, when you don't feel hungry, when you don't feel like working out, I will never sit here and pretend I love to work out every day. I love to work out. It's my career. I love doing it. But some days, like this week, I got a new dog and I'm tired as shit. I don't feel like doing anything. I want to eat cookies. I get impulses. I want to eat cookies and sit on my butt and watch Mike Tyson and have beers. And maybe I'll have a little bit of that, right? But the point is, growth occurs when we push back against ourselves, when we don't want to do anything. If I could just leave you with one thing, you could put this on my gravestone. Growth occurs when you push back, when you don't want to do something. All the talk about hard training, all the talk about structure and optimization, yet so many of us are still caught in trying to find consistency. We're still trapped trying to learn how to push back on days we want to quit or be weak. Are you hearing me? When you get to the point where pushing back is part of your DNA, and we're not trying to go all David Goggins here, but it's the same thing. I do not care about my feelings. When I am hard with somebody online, it's because I'm 3 times harder on myself. When I tell you to fucking suck it up and I don't give a shit about your feelings, it's because I do not give a fuck about my feelings. It's because whatever I say to you, I'm saying to myself. When I make a video about fuck your feelings or fuck your program, excuse my language, it's because this is the self-talk that I use. You are weak. You are a piece of shit. No one cares how you feel. Go do the fucking right thing. These are things I tell myself. I am hardest on myself, and we have to be hardest on ourselves. We don't want to create some obsessive, compulsive, crazy, neurotic, unhealthy, unbalanced life. There has to be room for ice cream and pizza and laughs and beer and late nights and all the things that make up a wonderful life. But when you are at your moment, when you need to eat your regular meals and do your regular training, you need to get it done. If you do not fight back and you don't eat when you're supposed to eat and you don't train when you're supposed to train, then you're going to turn into a sack of crap. You're never going to get there, and you're going to wake up 20 years from now and you're going to be doing the same thing over and over and over again. You want to know what one of the ways to live in hell is to live a life where that's your life. Over and over and over again, you repeat the same cycle. Next Monday, next Monday, next Monday. I'm going to be consistent. I'm going to eat when I don't feel like it. I'm going to train when I don't feel like it. Next Monday, I'm spitting everywhere. I see people like this every day. My heart goes out for them. It's not easy. I'm not trying to sit on some holy high mountain acting like the king of the world and like I'm perfect. I'm not. What I'm trying to tell you is if you don't fight back 15, 20 years from now, you're going to be going through the same cycle. And then you're going to end your fucking life never achieving anything. And that, my friends, is a shitty life. That, my friends, is a wasted life. Because challenge occurs in pushing back, and living occurs in pushing the boundaries and doing things we don't want to do when we don't want to do them. The highest highs that I've experienced in life is when I push back against myself, do things I don't want to do. run further than I want to run, train harder than I want to train, be more strict on my diet than I want to be. I love challenges. I love 100-day challenges. I love year-long challenges. I love things that force me to do something radical because I know the result. I'm about to get teary-eyed just thinking about this. We woke up one day like 5 years ago, and we ran 2 hours in Indiana at some battlefield park on a trail. And me and my wife looked at each other and we said, what did we just do? That wasn't so bad, we said. I'm a big 250-pound dope. And I just ran 2 hours on a trail. Ups and downs, in the cold, puddles, rain, snow, stuff. We got back to our car. And a door had opened because I did something I didn't think was possible. I pushed back when I didn't want to go forward. I ran out an hour and I made myself run back an hour. If you run out an hour, I got news for you. Ain't nobody coming to get you. You're going to have to run back. This is a strategy, whether you're physically doing this with distance or you're doing this in other ways where you're putting yourself on an island and there's no way to get off the island except to fight, right? So on that day, we made ourselves run out an hour because there's no way to get back unless you run back an hour. So we got back to the car and we said, that wasn't so bad. That wasn't so bad. I get emotional thinking about this because it was a life-changing adventure after that one single day. This is not an exaggeration. We got back to the car after pushing ourselves to do something we didn't even know was possible. We sat in the parking lot, 42 degrees, drizzling rain, cold as hell, our faces red, on the high top of a mountain, feeling at the top of the world. People ask me why I ultra run. It's the same reason why I lift. You can put yourself on the top of the world. You can give yourself the greatest high, greater than food, greater than alcohol, greater than watching your team win. We got back to the car. We said that wasn't so bad. And at that point, during the drive home, we started to discuss, what do you think about doing this 5 days a week for a year? We ran it one time. I'm not kidding you. We ran it we did 2 hours one time. And we said that wasn't so bad. And during the ride home from Indiana, we said, let's commit to doing this 5 days a week for a year. And we did. We committed. But to lock ourselves in, here's what we did. We approached the mayor and said, we want to do this for charity. Us knuckleheads who ran one time 2 hours without stopping. So we're going to do it for a year, 5 days a week. We went to the mayor and we asked, is there anybody that we can raise money for? And there's a local boy named Aiden who was in a bad car accident. He was like 5 or 6 years old, and he lost feeling in his body, his lower body. He became part of our family, and we raised money for him. We ended up being able to buy a van for him to load him in and out and transport him. But what we did, because we challenged ourselves on one day to do something we didn't want to do, to do something we thought was impossible because we pushed back, which is the essence of this question. A whole world opened for us. Now, I'm not saying this is going to happen every time you push back and eat when you don't want to eat, but it is that mentality. This is the fruit in general of that attitude. We ended up running every single week for a year, at least 10 hours. In fact, on Saturday, we would go out and run 3, 4, 5, 6 hours. We were running 12, 14, 16 hours a week, and we did so for a year. Rain, snow, blizzard, tornado. We're near tornadoes in Dayton. Once, I remember, we were in snowstorms. We were in everything. We did this in Australia. We did this in Scotland. We did this in the US. We did this everywhere we traveled. We ran. And not only did we raise money to help somebody, but we did something ridiculous. When I die, that last breath, I'm not going to remember the nachos or the Mike Tyson fight. It's on tonight. I remember those moments. I get emotional just thinking about them. The peaks of Corbett's in Scotland and the Snake and Spiderfield trails of Australia, but never quitting. We did something once. We took a leap of faith. We pushed back. All I ever want for any of you is to feel that power. This is bigger than lifting. This is bigger than running. This is bigger than fitness. This is bigger than nutrition. This is living. When you expose a child to a new thing, you open a door. And when they try that new thing fearlessly, whether you have a child and you expose them to gymnastics, you expose them to basketball, you expose them to drawing, whatever, you open doors and you don't know where those doors are going to go because they pushed their boundaries and tried something new. Pushing. Push back. Try something different. Live. This is the essence of life. When you don't push against the things you don't want to do, you're dying slowly. One meal at a time, one decision at a time. And you're going to end up 20 years from now, that person, and we know many of them in our life, that are in the later stages of their life thinking, I'm going to die, I'm going to do this, I'm going to finally do this, and they never do. Because they never do the one thing that is required, that is pushing back and doing something when you don't want to do it, or doing something you don't think is possible. Big Jonathan. Happy Friday, Steve and Team Massive. Is it me, or are there a lot of new researchers? Yes, it's very profitable. When I say this, I get a lot of, you're an anti-science guy. No, I'm not an anti-science guy. I'm an anti-bad science guy. I cut my teeth on science and mathematics. I'm not a researcher, so to speak, but I'm also not a meathead idiot. Astrophysics was my passion. Mathematics was my passion. I understand logic. I understand the scientific process to a reasonable degree. Getting one study and saying all of a sudden you need 3 grams of protein for every pound of body weight when it doesn't line up with the history of lifting is not scientific. It's one guy pushing a button for money. It's inauthentic and it's bullshit. It is. I'm sorry, but it is. And then it takes the rest of the whole fitness world running around because some guy said this based on one study, or that female influencer last week or the week before that was saying you don't need to bulk or cut, it provides no advantage. I honestly don't know how someone can have a science-based brand and be such a fucking idiot. Steve, you're being hard. You're being cruel. I'm just talking to you like I would in right here? I don't know, because it doesn't make any sense. You're not science because you disagree with somebody that talked about science. Well, okay. That's not very logical, is it? I don't like to generalize, and we find no value in generalizations. It doesn't serve anybody good. When we generalize about motivations or people from different areas or people of different walks of life or anything, we don't want to generalize because it's extremely unfair. Sometimes it can partially be true. But I am not anti-science or anti-optimization. Someone left a comment on Dr. Mike's video, one of Dr. Mike's videos this week, basically framing it like I was anti-optimization or anti-science. I'm not at all. What I am is anti-bad science. I've seen here's the big perspective. And you can either be on my boat or you can be on their boat, whatever boat you want to be on. I'm going to tell you my side of things. I've been around the block. I've been here way back when time began, when YouTube Fitness was Ask Scooby and all those guys, Vince Del Monte, back in the early days of Elliot Hulse. Me and Elliot Hulse wrote at the same website, Critical Bench, before anybody knew him. I've been here when time began. Just because I'm old, I have. And in all of those years, what I have seen is the following. Today, someone wakes up and says bench press is bad for the chest. Tomorrow, dips is bad for the chest. The next day, barbell rows and pendlay rows are bad. The next day, lunges. The next day, standing calf raises. The next day, seating calf raises. The next day, the next day, the next day, and on and on and on it goes. And there are sheep that follow them off a cliff. I have seen every exercise we use demonized over and over again. But yet, when someone gets on YouTube and makes a video about how lunges are shite, and I say, whoa, let's cool the jets a little bit. Let's slow the horses a little bit. Then the sheep from that gene pool, we're just using a little bit of humor, come after me. Anti-science, anti-optimization, latest research. You know what? Widen your view. If you widen your view, you'll see this, a recurring cycle. It's not that we're anti-research, but we see a pattern with these people. Don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, do this, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, do this, right? And they create a narrowing and narrowing and narrowing and narrowing and narrowing picture of what muscle building and hypertrophy is and what nutrition is. They clamp down, they remove pieces. If you notice a consistent aspect to their science or science-based outlook, it's always the removal of pieces. Almost always, right? Don't do lunges. Don't do seated calf raises. These are all things I've seen in the last couple of weeks. Don't. Eat only 3 grams of protein for every lean pound of body weight, whatever it is. Reduce, 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 narrow, narrow, narrow. The reality is that muscle building and muscle building nutrition is not granular. It is not a narrow path. If you want to be the most scientific you can be, you need to understand this, because this is the reality of lifting during the last 70 years. It's not a narrow path. It's not granular. The magic path isn't magic, one magic exercise. It's a wide path. That's the beautiful thing about muscle building. My 10 pillars of success outline this, the broad picture, the big picture. If you've not seen my 10 pillars of success, check out my book, Massive Omnibus, at my website, superlivingtoday.com. I'm not trying to give you a commercial. But what I have done is look at the last 70 years of lifting and said it's a broad path. But here are the rules you have to play by. And as long as you play by these rules, you can use a broad path. You don't have to use rest pause. You don't have to abandon lunges. You can do seated and standing calf raises. It's not a narrow path when it comes to nutrition. If you use a reasonable path, which is a broad path, and you're consistent, you will get there. The problem with most of what I see is that we are trying to create some granular, narrow path of one style of training, of one. We're reductionists. We incite fear and fear and fear. We remove exercises and training splits and viable options until you get to the point where you're at a gun to your head. You can only do this. This isn't scientific. What this industry needs more of is people that show you the art and how to remain rational and reasonable, how to open doors and create freedom. Does that make sense? We're not going to be idiots, and we're not going to be irrational, and we're not going to do stupid training styles, and we're not just going to do circus act training. It's not what this is about. There's a lot more freedom in training and nutrition than your science-based influencer is feeding you. And if I go to my grave and somebody's calling me anti-science-based for stating this truth, well, it's up to you to decide what is truth, who is right. Jonathan, when is the new Massive Iron workout app coming along? We've been in beta for quite a while, and I use it during my workouts. It's looking really good. I don't have a specific date, but just know we're still working on it eagerly. Hefty. What do you think of snatch, grip, high pulls? I will say that no exercise is inherently something I haven't tried. I've tried everything, pretty much. At the end of the day, which exercises you choose is really about what are my goals, how much time do I have in the week, and do I have time to get this in? There's certainly room to have some play exercises. Do I think snatch, grip, high pulls are probably in my top 90% for hypertrophy or muscle building or strength building? Nah. Does that mean they have no value? No. If you do your shoulder work and your trap work and you want to add in a last exercise of a snatch, grip, high pull, do it. I like having that fourth exercise of the week for a body part, something that I call a pet exercise. Something I just do because I like it. Because newsflash, you can have fun in the gym, right? So do what you love. That's what I say. Hello from Norway. How's your new house? Doing great, man. We've been in here exactly a year and 2 days, and I feel completely blessed. How much value is there in adductor and abductor machines? That's a very good question. Now, if you would have asked me probably my first 25 years of lifting, I'd have been like, nah. But in my years when I was really getting into powerlifting and heavy squatting, I started picking up adductor and abductor strains more than anything else. So I was training in my gym, basement gym. Looking back, if strength was my main focus, I would definitely consider adding in some of this work each week. A little bit goes a long way. If you're just bodybuilding, you want general health, general fitness, I mean, we could say this for a lot of things, adding in a little bit of work, and before you know it, your program is bloated, right? Um, if you're serious about squatting, probably not a bad idea to do a little bit at least every couple of weeks or consider it. Have I ever done a lot of it? No, not. So again, a lot of this comes down to how much time do I have in gym. I work from home and squeeze in workouts between calls. Is it okay to do a set of curls, work, and then do flies? Yeah, absolutely. What I wouldn't do is break up exercises, right? So curl and then wait a half an hour and curl again. You don't want to do anything that would require to re-warm up. Does that make sense? I do that a lot in here. I work a lot of long days. So I'll do like an exercise. Maybe I'll do bench, and then I have to wait a half an hour to do dumbbell bench. Think of things in terms of weekly volume. The only thing you don't want to do is stop in the middle of an exercise because then you have to re-warm up. Joseph, morning. I've been having a little trouble finding my workout weight after getting back in the gym. Just go slow. Use minimum. Build momentum. Allow your connective tissue to strengthen. Don't pressure yourself. After 2, 3, 4 years, months, you're going to be right back in the groove. Dog names. Call him Rambo. Nice dog. Thank you. Van Nippy. Good humor. Cute puppy. Be mindful of his teeth. Yeah, we got five dachshunds, so we're on number 5. Thank you. Can I use a massive BLT for deadlift? I don't like a lot of volume for deadlift in general, but if you want to use it as kind of a specialization approach, yeah, you can absolutely. Just be really careful to adapt or change if anything doesn't feel off, or if anything feels off. Remove volume, change volume, adjust, whatever. The legend of Mr. D, happy Friday. I can't tell you guys how much I look forward to Friday and connecting with you guys and going over your questions. And community is very important to me. And I can't stress enough how I'd love for you guys to come join Team Massive. Discord. Christian, would you recommend 2 days a week full body program to get back into shape after a quad tear? Very good question. A very good question. What I would probably do, I don't like to cram things too much. One thing I've been doing a little bit lately is kind of a unique approach for 3. If you have 3 days a week, consider this: upper day, posterior day, and a full body day. The full body day, you can do more of the foofier, lighter stuff. Machine chest press, arm work. On the upper and posterior day, you can do more of the pressing work, and then your posterior squats, deadlifts, whatever you want to do, and then do a full body. I think that's a really good approach. 2 days a week, if you only have 2 days a week, that's perfectly fine. You just have to get really structured in what you want to train and what you want to do. Nolan, client of mine, how much body English and power is acceptable on pendlay rows before it turns into a deadlift row? Very good question. So one thing, a concept I talk about a lot is focused power. On a pendlay row, you want focused power. You don't want reckless, sloppy power, just moving the weight at expense. Like you can do this, pulling it up. If you pendlay row like this, you're really taking out the explosive power that helps to generate stimulus. On a bench press, you are exploding it as hard as you can off your chest. It might not seem explosive, but if you don't generate maximal power, focused power, you're not going to get the bar off your chest. On the other hand, if you're doing 135 and it feels light and you're just throwing it around like a maniac, that's not focused power. So focused power has to be power, but focused. On a pendlay row, it's the same thing. We don't want to do this. We don't want to, right? like a maniac. We want to down, boom, down, right? Focus power. Does that make sense? You want to keep your head and your torso locked in, and you want that focus power. Does that make sense? A lot of hypertrophy is about focus power. On a V-bar lat pull down, I don't like to go slow. I like boom, focus, power, control, boom, focus, power. And when I say focused, I can feel the lats. Does that make sense? Not like a maniac pulling as fast as you can. I don't like to, do that. My lat pull downs are, focus power. I want to feel power generation, but not reckless and out of control. Does that make sense? I hope so. Is a 1.2 body weight bench bad? Let's say you got somebody that weighs 150 or 200. No, that's reasonable. I don't like to create rules, but it's definitely reasonable. So, got the dog hair all over me. Andreas, good morning. Good to see you, my friend. Hey, Coach, do you give a special advice for lifters with back deformities? I've coached everything. I've coached Special Olympics. I've coached people with scoliosis. I've coached blind athletes. I've coached athletes with missing limbs. Everything we do in training as a coach is meant to work with what a lifter can do. Okay. So way back when I first started coaching, I had a client named David who had really bad scoliosis. What a good coach will do is work with you to find lifts you can do that are safe but effective. That's really the key. So absolutely. There's no special advice. There's many, many unique conditions and injuries out there. The only special advice is that we have to take every person step by step and figure this out together. Do you have any protocols that focus on singles, doubles, or triples? How would you best recommend to best work in these lower ranges? This is more near advanced level stuff, and I do have some bench stuff like this. I hesitate to put out this stuff because you really have to have form dialed in, and you really, really, really need to be agile, meaning adapt on the fly. I think this is good for a season when you're after strength and you're slightly more advanced. It can't be the bread and butter of your training year round. But if I do this sort of stuff for trainees, but it's all custom built, if that makes sense. I think it has to be to a degree. Couldn't agree more. I got major clavicle pain and I had to experiment a lot. The only push I can do weirdly is incline chest. That's one of the amazing things about injuries. Like someone will say, I have injury X, Y, or Z. And what do? I will say, I have clients with a myriad of different types of conditions and injuries. And you never know until you try something what's actually going to work. Austin. Any tips for very long tibia femur squatters? My squat isn't bad, but just like on Zercher, I feel like I have to bend over. No tips in specific. When it comes to squatting, everyone is kind of a unique entity. So I have to look at a bigger picture. My best advice for any of you is to allow me to look at your squat or another, reputable squat coach. I'm going to look at how's your stance look, how's your knee angle look, how are you folding, how's your bar path looking, what can we dial in and adjust? Because it's so complex. Meaning your limb lengths and leverages and your muscles, one muscle might be naturally stronger than another. You might be just a quad freak out of the womb. So my best advice for you is to join Team Massive Discord. I'll send you the link for free, or just send me your squat video on Instagram, and I'd be happy to look at it and help you out. I want you guys to know that even though I coach, everybody that comes to me, everybody with a question or a form video I answer. So I don't want you to ever hesitate. I'm never going to pressure you into coaching. I only want to work coaching-wise with people that want to work with me. So I don't ever want you to feel uncomfortable about asking me a question. Ian, thoughts on if I split a push-pull legs in upper, lower, repeat. So I put some push on pull. It depends on how it looks, because there's good ways to do this and there's bad ways to do this. So I would have to see the exercise outline to be able to tell you if it's a good way or a bad way. Does that make sense? If everyone can reach their potential within a certain time, is it really any advantage in starting with? I think this is a non-question, my friend, and I mean that respectfully. We've got a lot of theory, a lot of speculation. I don't think everybody can reach their potential, and certainly not within a certain amount of time. Hard training is not easy. Structured nutrition is not easy. You also have random things like life and injuries and stress at school and just hell. So, no, not everyone can. Most people will never come close to reaching their potential. For most people, at least 80% of lifters, it's going to be at least probably 95% of lifters, it's going to be an ongoing struggle just to get that next pound of muscle. Beyond that, there are always advantages to starting earlier. If you start in your 18s to 20s, you get the hormonal advantage and the advantage of being rebounding better, because young people rebound better. And you're lifting, you're taking care of your body, you're building a base. There's never any disadvantage to that. Thanks, Christian. I appreciate that. That helps me make the connection. Is it true that as a person gets stronger, they should spend more time in the gym compared to? No, this is a generalization. What tends to happen is a stronger lifter inherently spends more time in the gym because they have to do more warm-up sets. That's really the case. I've never really evolved my volume. I've pretty much trained with the same volume I did on day one. So I would say this is one of those cases in hypertrophy where we're standing at a tree and we're missing the bigger picture. If you train hard and you nail your nutrition, over the long run, everything shakes out. You don't need to add more volume. Maybe if you're going to become a world-class best of the best and you need to dedicate every second of your life to getting a half inch of calves to win the Mr. Olympia, yeah. That imitation of the car running like crap has a lot. Yeah, make it so, right? That's when I first found the Big Hairy Ugly Dude, those articles on M&S. Thank you. I had a lot of fun when I wrote articles on muscle and strength because there was freedom to create and create new systems. I still to this day like creating new workouts like that. Continuous raises improve ankle mobility. I don't know about mobility. Definitely they could help with lower limb support and strength. Mobility is way out of my lane, my friend. I know as much about mobility as I was going to make some sort of radical analogy. I know as much about mobility as I do about the top fashion trends in France. Let's put it that way. Andy, how's it going, Andy? Greetings and thanks for tuning in. Eric, can you order the most common progression schemes from novice to advanced? Really not the case. Once you have a good working understanding of form and you're consistent, there really are no progression schemes you can't use. It really comes down to an exercise by exercise choice. Like on Pendley rows, do you want to just do one set max reps or do you want to do them all? A bench press might be different. So really the key is to try something, see if you like it, and don't hesitate to change it. Not everything has to be uniform, if that makes sense. Big Logan, doing ramping sets on bench, going for sixes. What's the best progression marker for ramping sets? Maximize that last set. And I would say when you get to 7 or 8, you can move up 5 pounds. That's what I would do. Big E and K. Why is there skinny guys that can squat, bench, dead so much weight but are skinny? This is a myth. There's no skinny, non-muscular guys that are Herculean strength relative to their weight class. They have a degree of muscularity relative to their weight class, which is reasonable. We know scientifically that the biggest powerlifters, the strongest powerlifters are almost always the biggest. Certainly, there are outliers that can deadlift 450 out of the womb when you might never get there. Okay. But once we move past that outlier stage, right? Somebody might be able to bench press 225, right? Country strong. That's outlier stage. Okay. There's room for outliers in that area. But once you get into the super strong levels, you're going to have to build a muscular base. Does that make sense? Big Jonathan, during a bulk, is it okay if I fall, let's say, yeah. Don't eat more the next day. Just get back on. There's going to be a little variance. Don't if you want to, go ahead. That's fine. But I don't want you to feel pressure. A little bit of variance on a bulk is okay. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with it. I was being a little bit reactionary because I've seen some guys go under 700 on one day on a bulk and then gorge themselves the next day. I'd rather see you work on consistency. But if you fall under, like if you go way under, I don't want you to generally go way over. If you go way over, I generally don't want you to come back and go way under, right? You're better off just getting back on the plan in general. Because the rough edges generally aren't enough to be major issues. Our calves no, they're not a useless muscle. I've said this many, many times on this live that you don't see many people with calves days, right? Like their chest day. There's a lot of speculation on calves, but I will tell you there's 1,000 more hours of speculation than there are training intensity on calves. So it's a common topic. And there certainly are people like me with big calves out of the womb and people with small calves and some people that really have a hard time growing their calves. But we always have to focus on what we can control. And if you want to build big calves, then train them like you mean it. Your calves grew an inch directly or indirectly. I'm not surprised. I mean, you're stressing. That's a very positive sign. I mean, I am not surprised. I mean, I can't say that's going to happen to a lot of people, but that's a wonderful, wonderful thing. Jonathan, as on a seated dumbbell shoulder press, when you come down, should you go all the way to the shoulder height? No. A dumbbell, I want you to monitor your elbow relative to your shoulder. Okay, that's the reference point. If you stopped here on a dumbbell press, the dumbbells are going to be way over your head. Come down here to a natural position. Your elbows are well below your shoulder joints. You're staying in a good leverage position. You want to bring it down to a natural position. If you go too low to the point where your wrists are kind of rolling forward of your elbows or you lose leverage and you have some kind of, internal shoulder rotation stress, you're not doing yourself justice. Bring it down naturally. You can see my elbows are well below my shoulders over a long period of time using progressive overload. That's going to be the best way to treat your body good. Larry Burt, good to see you, Larry. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it. Big Ryan, still training hard, big hairy ugly dude. Just cut out the pressing. We're good, man. Just keep us updated, and I hope everything turns out well for you. Harut, one of my favorite people in the world. Brent Torres hamstring just above the knee. How long do you think you can do legs again? When you tear something, you need to move it daily, not heavy, but you need to do that movement pattern to kind of have it heal in that right normal position. So I would have him do minimal weight leg curls. Maybe bar only, very, very mild RDLs, not super deep at all. Very mild, very user friendly, right? Every day, just to get that hamstring to heal where it's supposed to heal. This is my bro science advice. I picked this up from Louis Simmons many, many years ago. This is what I did when I tore my hamstring on squats. I did very light goblet squats each day until I started to pick up some momentum. Nothing punishing, nothing heavy, nothing extreme, just working that movement pattern very mildly. If it's so bad where things are extreme, obviously they have to see a doctor. I saw this squat protocol from Garage Strength where you do 8 to 12 reps. I'm not a big fan of rest pause on squats simply because you end up putting more effort into the racking and unracking and getting into position. It's really hard to do rest pause on squats unless the weight is relatively lighter. Go ahead and try it. You be the judge. I personally don't like rest pause on squats. I'm a big fan of rest pause in general, but squats I find, and bench press I find, if you're doing singles or doubles, you end up putting almost more effort into the racking and unracking. Love the message. Thank you. I have to drop for meetings. Have a good weekend, man. Hope to hear from you. Hope everything's going well. Slept 3 hours a day, but feel okay. Got back day today. Should I go in? No, get it, man. Get it. If you feel good, go get it. I've hit some of my biggest PRs on days, some of my best workouts on days where I felt like a flaming sack of crap. If you feel good, do it. But just give yourself the freedom to pull back, drop sets, reduce things a little bit. You don't have to be a superhero. Thank you, sir. I appreciate you tuning in. We got 5 questions left, guys. Last call. If not, I'll be dropping off. Are doing heavy singles and doubles at sub-maximum weight better than you don't really want to do 1 rep maxes. Save those for the Super Bowl. When I was doing heavy daily single, double, triple squads, I would work up to what I felt like during that day, but never a 1 rep max, true 1 rep max. So if I went in on squats and I did 545 for a single and I felt good, hey, man, I'm going to try 600 and 645 today. You kind of go with what you feel, but you I would never do a true 1 rep max. You want to always put yourself in a safe position to live to fight another day. Big Thunder. Should I do squats and deadlifts with the same lower workout? Within the same. You can. I have done that in the past. It is not easy. But if you do that, you're probably going to have just a minimal or reasonable degree of work afterwards, or else it's brutal. Smack a Big Mac. Love the name. Tips for reducing elbow pain, tendonitis from frequent pressing. I would, I would, number one, lighten the load and probably do more volume rather than heavier stuff, like a 5x10 or a 4x10. I would use some kind of an elbow heat rub. I would maybe use an elbow, elbow support, maybe wrist support, just to give more support in the chain completely. If you're getting recurring pain, though, we have to change something in your training. So lighter, different exercises, something, more variety. It's something we'll have to work on. If you need more help, you want me to look at things, you want to discuss this further, I'd love to help. Come join Team Massive Discord or just send me a message. Big Thunder. Should I do more sets for compound exercises? It's not like that. Check out the way I program, okay? We want to look at the big picture over the course of a week. Pick your body part, chest. What exercises do I like to do for chest? Do they have a reasonable progression opportunity? What structure works best? That's where we want to start. Overusing isolation exercise, overusing is the key. Overusing isolation exercises that don't have a quality progression opportunity can be a pit. Like if all you ever did for shoulders was side lateral raises. Last call, guys. The upper lower is basically your, I'd have to see it. It really comes down to seeing exercises. The real meat and potatoes of a workout is what the exercises are in the structure, not the structure itself. So I can't comment unless I see the exercises. Big Nolan, I'm excited for live every week. Thank you. Nolan is one of my favorite people. I coach him. He's lost a lot of weight. Things are really coming together. He's stuck it out through thick and thin. Nolan is a perfect example of consistency, of real world consistency. Is Nolan perfect? No. Am I perfect? No. But Nolan continues to push forward. His physique gets better. His strength gets better. He gets leaner and leaner and bigger and stronger. And even when the bad days hit, even when the doubt hits, Nolan keeps moving forward like a bulldozer. And I have nothing but respect. All right, don't go yet. We're going to wait around for any last questions. Before I end, you can always hit me up on Instagram. Please follow me on Instagram at Ben the Barman, at Ben the Barman. And you can go over to my website. Coaching. Watch for the Black Friday specials if you're interested in the yearly special. I'd love to work with you. Come on, let's do it. Let's see what we can get done. Check out the coaching tab. If you need apparel, if you need a logbook, whatever you need. I've done phone consultations. This week I did a phone consultation with Logan, and we built out his workout right there over the phone, which was a wonderful, wonderful thing to do. I do phone consultations. We can do something like that. I'm a small content producer. I don't live on views. I live off coaching. So if there's any way I can help you in any if there's any way I can help you in any way, redundant, please let me know. What do we got here? Let me get this. Yes, inhaled a dog hair. Great job, Nolan. And with that, we are out.
It's not almost over. It's not almost over. You're not almost there. You're not almost there. You're not almost there.